Hello friends and welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. I'm Morjax, and today we are looking at part 2 of 4 of Phase 4, Early Access Phase 4 Inventory, Skills, and Spells for Mordheim City of the Damned. So we are looking at a Sisters of Sigmar warband here, and we're going to jump right into the spells. This is the Matriarch, which is the leader of the warband. She already had this spell, Healing Circle, but I'll go through it. I didn't see the guts of it before. And I'll talk you through what we're going to do here real quick. I'm going to go through all the spells. We're going to go through the other half of the active skills and also the unique passive skills to Sisters of Sigmar, and then briefly through the mental skill trait, or the mental traits here. So, Healing Circle. Every ally in an area of 5 meters in radius give back up to 20 wounds to wounded allies. So that's just sort of a buff, I guess. It's just your standard area heal. Comet of Sigmar is a 15-meter spell, and it deals 12 to 17 damage which bypasses armor absorption. And so basically it's just a fireball. Sigmar's Might is a weapon buff, I believe. Weapons wielded by the targets gain an increase of 5% to melee critical attempt and 15% to melee damage. So it's just a weapon buff. Sinful Speech. The victim cannot cast spells for the duration of this spell, which is duration 1 turn here. Mastery increases it to 2 turns. So that's a good way to shut down their caster if they're doing that. The sisters hate them some spells. Blessing of Athletics. This is actually something that the impressive unit for Sisters of Sigmar already had, but this is a skill that any of your heroes can get, as long as they can cast spells, I should say, or prayers in this case. Increases the chances of the spell target to climb, leap, and jump down by 15%, and it is not stackable. So it's the caster and or every ally in an area of 5 meters in radius. So you can hit a whole bunch of guys with this if you wanted. Divine Retaliation is a single ally. The target gains a bonus of 30% to ranged resistance and 15% melee resistance. And it is duration 0 turns, so I don't know if that's permanent. If that's permanent, that's amazing. It can't be. It's got to just be for 1 turn. The Mastery is 60% ranged resistance, 30% melee resistance, increased range from 15 to 30 meters. Divine Wrath reduces to 15% from 20, and casting penalty is minus 15 instead of minus 20. This seems like a pretty strong one to me, depending on how long it lasts. It's not totally clear to me. And the last one is Hearts of the Griffin. So you can target the caster or every ally within 5 meter radius. It's again area effect. The targets become immune to all alone tests. And the Mastery is they are also immune to fear. For the range increases to 30 meters from 15, and then the Divine Wrath and casting penalty go down. So that's basically, it's a psychology immunity spell. So pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and look at the unique passive skills. The first one is Divine Fervor, which is the target is the skill user. This is passive skills here. I think I already said that, but better to say it twice than to leave you confused. Every time the skill user successfully casts a spell, the cost of melee attack or charge is reduced by 1 offense point. The next action must be a melee attack or charge, else the effect is lost. So you cast a spell and then you immediately follow it by a melee attack or charge, and you get 1 extra offense point to do so. So kind of nifty. Let's look at the other ones here. Next one is Absolute Faith. Increases fear, terror, all alone, and route tests by 5%. That's nice, particularly for route tests. The Mastery is 15%, so that could really help if you just happen to be below your route test cutoff, which is 30% morale, and you feel like you can get it. You just need to pass your route test 1 or 2 more times. This might be a really good option for you. Next is Divine Aegis. Increase range to resistance by 5%. The Mastery is 15%. This is pretty good in my mind, because a big weakness on the Sisters of Sigmar is they're really lacking in ranged. They're meant to be close up, they're meant to be right up in your face, and they just don't have a lot of options for ranged. I think Comet of Sigmar might be one of the only things. So if you know of other ones, let me know, because that would help to even out this warband a lot. So let's continue. Protection of Sigmar is a 5% magic resistance, and the mastery is 15, so that's just a magic buff. So let's jump right over to the active skills here, and we'll go to the unique ones. The first is a Prayer of Swiftness. It is self-target, a quick prayer that increases the chance to dodge of the skill user, that's a little weird, by 15%. A dodging stance must be still used after the skill to be effective, not stackable. The mastery is a 30% chance. So it gives you a better chance to dodge, basically. Righteous Fury is a melee attack which has a minus 35% chance to hit. Excuse me. But if successful, it reduces the maximum offense points and strategy points by up to 1 for the next turn. The mastery is OP and SP reduced by 2, and the penalty to hit is only minus 25 instead of minus 35. This could be good along with a couple of the other active skills to, again, just shut them down if you're really focusing in, say, their impressive unit. If you want to just hobble their impressive unit, you can have archers shooting in with things that reduce their offense points and strategy points. You can have melee guys swinging in. You can have this skill reducing, and they might have just a couple of left, if any. So you could really shut down a particular unit if you want to focus in a lot of these skills in combination with one another. The next unique active skill, and the last, is Sign of Sigmar, a quick prayer that increases the melee and ranged resistance of the warrior by 5%, and the mastery is melee and ranged resistance is 10%. So kind of a nice, just general buff. I think you would get a lot of use out of that. It's not, you know, huge and sexy, but it would sort of be in the background helping you out. And I'd like to just say real quick, I probably should have said this at the start, that this is in 1080p I'm recording in, and there's a lot of text. There's a lot going on here. So if at any point you want to zoom in or get a closer look, go ahead and pause it and just take a look at the skills. If you've got any questions, if you've got any thoughts, ideas for combos, let me know, because I am definitely still digesting this here. And I'd love to hear things that stick out to you, favorites you have. So let's keep going here. We're looking at the leadership active skills. First one is Courage. Every ally in a 5-meter radius increases the chance of nearby allies to succeed at passing all alone, fear, and terror tests. So we've got a unique skill like that. It's kind of a similar thing. Rallying Cry removes the terrified or afraid debuff from the selected ally, and the mastery gives you an increase in duration and an increase in range. So that's good to kind of put out the fire if one of your models is running for it. Next one here is Threaten. This is known in a lot of games as Taunt. The skill user forces an enemy engaged with him who has enough offense points to perform a melee attack to pass a leadership test with a minus 10 penalty. If the enemy fails, it is forced to attack the skill user and spend his offense points in the process. So, and the mastery is they have a minus 25% penalty in terms of passing their leadership test. So this is really good if you've got someone who you know can take the hit. You can siphon off their points and force them to attack you so that they can attack your squishier one. So this is basically your typical taunt. Next one here is Coordination. Every ally in a 5-meter radius increases the initiative value of allies for the next round by 5, and the mastery is 10. So that's just, you make everyone nearby a little speedier. That's a little underwhelming to me, but you might find some use for it. Next is Guidance. Guide the target to prevent the effects of mental conditions such as stupidity, paranoia, half-crazy, megalomania, and heroic idiocy. So those last ones are not implemented yet. I imagine those are going to be skills or injuries that you might be paranoid, you might be half-crazy, you might be a megalomaniac, or you might be a heroic idiot. The mastery increases the range to 30 meters and the duration to 3 turns. So that's, depending on how your warband develops, this might be a good one just to kind of shore up some of your weaknesses. Intimidate is the next. Skill user forces an enemy engaged with him to pass a leadership test with a bonus of 25%. If the victim fails, it will be forced to flee from the user, providing a free attack to anyone engaged with it in the process. And mastery reduces the leadership modifier to 5%. So they have a 105% chance, or if you don't have the mastery, 125% chance to pass a leadership test. If they fail, they have to flee and you get free attacks. That is super strong in my mind. Because I love, if you haven't noticed, to pile up a whole bunch of guys on one whenever I can help it. So that is an awesome way. If you can get like 3, 4, 5 guys on one, and then you just start intimidate, and all you have to do is get one of them to pass, you get 4 free attacks, and they're pretty much toast. So, Order is the next skill here. Force an engaged ally to attack an enemy selected randomly from his potential targets. So this is interesting because the caster, it costs 4 offense points, but I don't think it costs the target offense points. So if you're say your impressive unit is just equipped to the teeth, but they're out of offense points, you could potentially have a number of other heroes sitting there ordering them attack, and you could get a lot more attacks out of them. So that seems, in a tuned warband, to take advantage of this. This seems also very strong to me. Retreat is the next. Force an engaged ally to carefully disengage from his enemies. Doesn't work against warriors who would never retreat from battle, and thus don't have the option to disengage. So that's, I think, another quote-unquote injury roll that will be implemented, that they never back down. That can be a certain psychological impairment that a warrior might have, that they never disengage from combat, no matter what. Okay, next one here is Warcry. Sorry, this is kind of there's a long list here. There's a lot of options. Warcry is increase the melee damage of nearby enemies by 10%. Mastery is 20%. So that's pretty straightforward. Kind of a generally useful. It doesn't have a lot of wow factor, but it has a lot of utility. Okay, now we are on to the agility skills. There's just a few of them here. Balance stance. The warrior takes a stance which ends his turn. The stance increases stun resistance by 50%. To me, that's not really very impressive, because stun doesn't happen that much. I mean, maybe it does if they're using a certain skill on you, but that seems pretty dang specialized. Next one here is Prowl. The warrior takes a stance which ends his turn. The warrior will ambush the next enemy that passes close with a -10 chance to hit and plus 50% damage. The warrior will also be ready to dodge the next melee attacks with an extra 5%. So this is another one of those hybrids. You take an ambush stance at a penalty, but you also have a bonus to dodge. So it's sort of like a hybrid stance, which is, it's interesting they have these. Last one here in the agility tree is Sidestep. The warrior takes a stance which ends his turn. The stance increases the possibility to dodge 2 successful melee attacks, and Mastery is 3 successful. So if you're extremely dodgy, I'm looking at you, Skaven, this would be a great one for you, Sidestep. It lets you dodge multiple times per round, which I think in a certain case, if you're a very dodgy warband, this is extremely good. So just something to keep an eye on. Next one here, second to last tree, is Toughness. Frenzy. Enter a state of frenzy that increases damage dealt by 25%. The frenzy lasts until the user is stunned, out of action, or no enemies are in sight. The frenzied warrior can't use ranged weapons, stances, spells, or most non-combat actions. So it's just a bloodlust type boost. Intensity. Push the body to its limit. Increase athletic performance, which is climb, leap, jump down, by 15%. At the start of your next turn, you lose 15 wounds, which could put the unit out of action should it have less than 15 wounds. This, to me, is... it doesn't seem worth it. It's kind of a steep price to pay, in my mind. I guess if you have a mountain of toughness, you've got some to spare. Next one here is Adrenaline Rush. It's a similar kind of thing. You get 2 offense points back, but you take 35 wounds on the next turn. So it's sort of a benefit now for some problems later. And this is exhaustion is the same exact thing for strategy points. So you get 2 strategy points back and take 35 wounds the next round. And also, I should mention the mastery on this. It looks like it doubles all the effect. So the next here is cauterize. Take time to cauterize wounds, which remove up to 1 open wound debuff at the cost of 25 wounds. So you remove your debuff, but you take some damage. If the skill user doesn't have enough wounds left, the skill cannot be used. And the mastery is remove up to 3 open wound debuffs, which those open wound debuffs do stack. And I'm going from memory here, but I do believe those open wound debuffs give you a minus chance to hit. And I think they also give you a minus damage, or maybe it gives the enemy a bonus to hit you. So anyway, they're not too good. This seems good if you, particularly for the Sisters of Sigmar, if you've got very high toughness and you plan to be taking a lot of hits, you're going to be taking some open wounds, so it's nice to be able to stop those. Last one here is ignore pain. Gain an armor absorption bonus of 5% at the start of the next turn. The skill user will lose 10 wounds. And so it's just the same kind of thing, but for armor absorption. So that's kind of interesting. There's a benefit now to a damage later trade-off, quite a few of those. And last of all, we're going to be moving to the physical skill tree, active skill tree here. Mighty Charge is our first. Run at the victim with an extra movement of 4 meters. The attack deals an extra 75% damage, minus 30% chance to hit, and reduce parry chances of the enemy by 10%. So, I don't know, I think in certain use that's good, but I don't see myself getting a whole lot of mileage out of that, if you'll excuse. I know it's a charge, so excuse my wording there, but... Okay, the next is Swift Charge. Run at the victim with an extra movement of 4 meters. The attack deals an extra 25% damage and has plus 10% chances to hit. Reduce the dodge and parry chances by 15%. So this is a bonus to hit and a little bit extra damage, and they don't get as good of a chance to dodge or parry. So kind of a alternate to the Mighty Charge. You can hit hard or you can hit better. Next one here is Daredevil. Increases melee damage by 75%, but reduce melee and ranged resistance by 20%. And the mastery is 125% bonus damage. This is awesome if you've got someone with pretty high strength and toughness and they hit real hard. This is going to put their damage through the roof. So this is a good one to keep an eye out for. You got to be a little careful because it's sort of a... I mean, this is really a glass cannon kind of skill. So if that's what you're into, this Daredevil skill has got your name on it, so keep an eye out for that. Next one here is Kidney Strike, a melee attack that deals regular damage. If the victim is damaged, it also gains a debuff that reduces its melee resistance by 10%, and that does stack, so the mastery is 20%. That seems really good to me. You could get a couple of units with this skill and master it, so you're talking, if you deal damage, they get a minus 20% melee resistance reduction. So it only takes a couple of hits, and they're sitting ducks. That being said, a lot of times it only takes a couple of hits until they're out of action altogether. So take that for what it is. Next is Overpower, a melee attack that deals regular damage but has a minus 40% chance to hit. If the victim is damaged, it must pass a stun resistance check or it's automatically stunned. So this is a almost minus 50% to hit. The mastery is minus 20%, which is quite a bit better. It's basically a physical attack, a melee attack, which has got chance to stun. Strong Blow is the last skill here. This is a melee attack that deals extra 50% damage. The victim has minus 20% chance to parry this attack, and the parry penalty increases to 50% with the mastery. So that's a good way to do just kind of an extra little oomph to your attack. 50% damage. You don't suffer a hit penalty, and they suffer a parry penalty. So I think in certain situations you could get pretty good mileage out of that. Alright, so that's it for the skills here, and just the last couple of things I want to go through the mental stats here. So first one of the 3 is Leadership. And so for every point you put into it, increases morale by 1 for that unit. increases chances to succeed at psychological tests such as fear and all alone by 4%. So that 4% is again cumulative. You get, if you've got 100%, you apply 4%, and then the next one is 4% of 104, so it kind of adds to itself that way. Okay, next is intelligence. For every point, increases damage dealt with spells by 3%, increases chance to succeed at mental condition tests such as stupidity by 4%. And the last is alertness. Pardon me. Increases the initiative by 2 per point, increases range resistance by 2%, increases chance to succeed at perception tests by 4%. I've been really underwhelmed with the perception. It feels like pretty useless. Like, oh, I guess I'll just do a, I've got extra stuff to burn, I'll do a perception test. And, actually I want to go through all these things here too. So I'm going to do 3 more in this video, and then in parts 3 and 4, we'll go through the others and the resistances. So, weapon skill for each point increases melee resistance by 2%, increased chances to hit by 2%, and chances to parry by 4%. So you could crank that up, and you could get really good chance to hit, really good melee resistance, and really good chance to parry. That's a really good one for anyone who's going to be in close combat. Ballistic skill, for each point you get an increased chance to hit with ranged weapons by 2%. Increased damage done by ranged weapons is 3%. And again, these percents, it's not a flat value. This is a cumulative bonus. So it's more powerful to put a whole bunch of stats in one, in terms of getting sort of min-maxing, if you will, rather than trying to spread it out a whole lot. And the last one for the day is accuracy. So for every point, increases your chance to inflict a crit by 1% per point. So if you put 10 points in here, that's 10% crit chance. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you seed, oh my gosh, you guys, what am I doing? If you saw any skills that you particularly liked, let me know. If you see any combos going on, if you're kind of thinking things through here and see any combos I didn't mention, definitely leave me a comment, because I want to start figuring this stuff out. There's so much to go through. They gave you the max level, so it's like just so much all at once. But I want to start figuring these things out, and I want you guys to start figuring things out too. So if you see some combos, some skills you like, go ahead and pause the video and look a little closer, and leave me a comment and tell me what you think of those skills. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time for parts 3 and parts 4 of Early Access Phase 4 Inventory Management, including active skills, passive skills, and spells. So, see you next time, friends.